Thank you, thank you. Well, thank you for coming out on an evening like tonight. I know the weather right now is icky, and it already feels like 10 p.m. It's not even 7. So thank you for dragging yourselves here to listen to us talk a little bit about supporting your gifted or twice exceptional student after identification. Raise your hand if you were identified as a student being gifted when you were in school. Well, guess what? You're still gifted. It doesn't leave. You don't lose it. You still have it. You're just a gifted adult now, right? That's actually one of those misconceptions that our kids will have is like, well, I'm only gifted in like K through 8. Like high schools, they're like, you can take AP courses, but they're not calling it gifted, right? But they sort of lose that. And I promise you, we are all still gifted. So hi, welcome. A little bit about me. So I am Jessica Esway. I am the director at Menlo Park Academy. We are a school that is a nonprofit servicing exclusively gifted kids. We also have quite a few twice exceptional kids mixed in there too. I know someone was talking about the roller coasters of the emotions and the intensities. We'll touch a little bit on that. I also want to say my wonderful team is here. Leanna Weimels, wherever she went, she's here. She's our director of admissions. She's fabulous. She has a lot of answers to some of your questions as well. And then Sarah, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I absolutely adore you. Sarah Porras is our school counselor who's also here tonight too. So we cannot do what we do without her guidance and support and assistance. So I'm going to start us off a little bit about us. So we were founded on the core belief that gifted children need an educational environment designed to specifically meet their needs. Okay, so our mission, we are a public nonprofit charter. We develop the potential of gifted kids through an exemplary program of rewarding experiences that really nurture the whole child, right? We know when kids are identified, we know they're really smart. Like that part, check. We know that, right? There's also this whole other half that goes with that, which is their social emotional learning, which can be very much like this, okay? So we really try to meet the needs of all of those pieces. We know that these children, they're an at-risk group of learners. They need a dynamic environment that is customized to meet their needs, and they deserve enriched experiences. They don't deserve to be the peer tutor in the class. Raise your hand if your kid is being used as a peer tutor, really helping out all those other kids in their classroom. Yeah, no, they need their own services. They're an at-risk group of learners. Gifted students don't need more work. They need different learning. Okay, I'm going to say that many times. They don't need more. They need something that's different. At Menlo, we are doing things that are intentionally different, from our physical space to the curriculum to the social emotional piece that we're providing kids. Also, you'll have access to all of this. So if I go quickly and speak quickly, I'm going to give it all to you. So you will have this. The Menlo difference. So our pace, we are moving at a quicker pace. If kids know things, we are moving on. I tell all of our teachers, pre-assess. If they already know it, okay, great, go to the next thing. We're done. We're not going to keep doing the same, more of the same. We don't encourage that. We always try to go deeper into the curriculum. So as well as moving quickly, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that content. Acceleration of curriculum, we're going to move quickly through that curriculum a little bit quicker. I hand teachers curriculum, say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is good stuff for gifted kids. I do not expect them to go cover to cover. I encourage them not to. I do not want you to do that. I want you to meet kids where they are, and I want you to help them grow from that point. Differentiating everything that we do. Our 2E families, if you have a 2E kid, when you've met one 2E kid, you've only met one. They are very, very, very unique. And so what works for one of those kiddos is not going to work for another. Okay, so differentiating in order to meet those needs, making sure what we're giving them is given to them in different formats, okay? We do ability grouping and mixed multi-age grouping. So the way we set up our courses or our groups of kids is our K and 1, kinders and first graders, they're together all day long. Our second and third graders together, again, all day long. Fourth and fifth, guess what? You guessed it, they're together all day long. Sixth, seventh, and eighth, again, together all day long. We do this for many reasons. The blending, the learning is blended. Yeah, great, they're a kindergartner. Awesome. But what if they're working at a first grade level? What if they're working above that? Okay, let's do that for them, right? This is our building. If you have ever driven on 90, which I'm assuming a lot of us have, we have the giant water tower on the top, which is getting painted. It's not going to be plain and boring for much longer. But that's us. We are, again, intentionally very, very, very different. We have open and flexible learning spaces. There's a lack of walls. So again, this is very different than your traditional school setting. Some photos just to show that. We're trying to meet the needs of the student. We want them to move. We have brain and body breaks built in throughout the school day because, again, if they're 5, they can only sit for 5 minutes. We're not going to expect them to sit for 30 minutes. That's not realistic. We need them to get up and move. So we're trying to remove the obstacles to physically learning, right? So we have flexible seating, alternative seating, so they can kind of choose and be comfortable on how they learn. I taught at Menlo before I moved my way up. And so if you walked into my learning space, you probably would have been like, what is happening here? There were kids on wobble stools, moving and grooving, kids on bouncy chairs. There were kids laying on the floor. There's kids doing this in the back of the space the whole time while we're teaching. And guess what? That's fine. If that's what's best for you, cool, do it. Works for me. Okay, getting into the nitty gritty. Okay, so Ohio defines a student who is gifted as one who performs or shows potential for performing at remarkably high levels of accomplishment when compared to others of their age, experience, or environment. There is criteria for identification here, okay? When they are identified, they're identified in different categories. So the ones that you will hear are superior cognitive ability, specific academic ability, creative thinking ability, or visual or performing arts ability. They can be identified in one area. So a lot of times in what we see as Menlo, we'll see a lot of kids who are coming in on a reading identification, or a math identification, or a superior cog identification. Those are the typical ones that we see. But there is way more than that. So those are the areas that you can be identified under. Going a little bit by referrals and whole grade screenings. A student is considered screened for gifted identification when he or she is evaluated using an instrument approved for gifted identification. I have linked in this presentation. It will take you to ODEW's website. It will show you the list of ways kids can be identified. All of the assessments they can take. A lot of them, if you have a 2nd through 8th grader, they probably have already taken these assessments and you probably have no idea that they could actually already be identified, right? A lot of those tests like MAP, NWEA, if you've heard of that one, or iReady, if they're scoring in that 95th percentile, they're actually already identified in reading or in math, okay? So a referral is when a student's recommended for gifted identification testing. Parents, guardians, teachers, peers, and actually they can refer themselves, which I've never experienced that. I've not always worked in a gifted school. I've worked in public, private, charters. I worked all over. I've never had a kid like say, by the way, I think I'm gifted. Please test me. I've never experienced that. But if your child was one who did that, please tell me. I would love to hear all about that story. But you can refer your kiddo for identification, for evaluation at any time. Okay. If you have not done that and you think you're here and you're sitting here listening to me ramble about these things, talk to your school district. Tell them that you're referring them for an evaluation for this. All right. A lot of times they're whole grade screening. Your traditional public schools, they're going to start this in 2nd grade because by 3rd grade, I believe they're already identified at that age, but they're going to screen you in 2nd grade. And then apparently magically that's when you're identified as gifted. I didn't know we were waiting to 2nd or 3rd grade in order to do that. It's weird, but that's when they do it. It's our lovely education system for you. But they will do this and it's to essentially they'll do a screener first and that will flag kids and then they'll take that group of kids and give them the identification testing. Okay, so there's a process that they go through there. So all of your kids will be screened if they're in a traditional public school. They'll be screened in 2nd grade. It just happens. That's what they do. Okay, they should tell you about it, but who knows? That in red right there, that's the chart of approved assessments for gifted education. There will be some pre-screeners in there for the screening purposes, but there's also just a list of ones that your kids probably have already taken, a lot of these achievement tests, all right? At the bottom, very important, Ohio schools are required to identify gifted students. They have to identify them. They do not have to service them. So you need to talk to your district. If you know your student is identified, we have all the paperwork, we have all the things. There are a lot of districts that are not required to service them at all. So please I don't know the list in my head, so please don't ask me that. But I can try to figure some out. I do know of some, but I do know a lot of them are not required to service your kids, which is shocking. Why are we identifying them if we actually don't need to service them, right? It doesn't really make sense, but you know, who am I? These are the ones that you've probably already seen your kiddos coming home with, or the schools are sending home reports of. So your NWEA MAP testing, it's MAP growth is what they'll call it too. Your iReady test and STAR assessments, these are already on that approved list. These are already there. So if your kiddo's scoring, I know NWEA for sure is a 95th percentile. I believe the other ones are too. These are some biggies that we see coming from 2nd through 8th grade because we're a K-8 building. So starting in second grade, this is when we can take these achievement test scores as an identifier. Okay. Ones at Menlo that we do for starting in kinder, we can start testing at 4.5 is the Naglieri. Sort of like a puzzle. It's like, there's a piece missing. Which one of these pieces fits in this puzzle? That's literally the Naglieri. It's like 40 questions of just that. And then we give one about the COGAT, which has a little bit more of like a verbal piece, a quantitative piece, a nonverbal piece. That one takes about 2.5 hours. It's a very long time. I've done it with 5 kindergartners. Can't recommend that for anyone to do because that was tough. So we do that test as well. So we're trying to hit our verbal and our nonverbal kiddos with those 2 tests for identification. Understanding a little bit about what identification means. This is not all. I'm just trying to make some comparisons here. Okay, so gifted students, advanced abilities. Twice exceptional, they have advanced abilities and a diagnosed learning difference. So that could be I'm gifted and I also have ADHD. Or I'm gifted, I'm also on the autism spectrum. Okay, you could even be thrice exceptional. Gifted, ADHD, autism. Okay, we have a whole building of gifted kids, diagnosed or not diagnosed. We have a lot of twice and thrice exceptional kiddos in our building. Performance often matches their potential for gifted kiddos. Twice exceptional students, performance may be inconsistent or masked by the challenges that they may have, right? Our gifted kiddos, they really need enrichment and they need that challenge. They need that push. Our twice exceptional students, they also need enrichment, but they also need some sort of specialized support, whatever that may be. Gifted students, lots of times their strengths can be clearly visible. And I'm saying that intentionally because I have a lot of gifted students where sometimes it's not as visible, right? So our twice exceptional students' strengths may be hidden behind struggles, or struggles actually may overshadow those strengths. I've heard of a lot of families that have come to Menlo have been like, my school's really great about servicing this IEP. We're really working on those goals. We're doing the things, we're trying to close those gaps, right? They are totally not paying attention to this gifted identification because they're over here really trying to bridge the gaps here, right? That's when it's what they're supposed to do, but they're almost doing it in lieu of the challenge piece over here, okay? So we're going to go through some myths and the realities of being gifted. And 2E, this applies to both. Gifted kids will achieve without guidance. Not so much. Without appropriate guidance and support, gifted kids actually will lose motivation or they will underachieve. We've heard a lot of, especially our middle schoolers. Do I have any 6, 7, 8 parents in here? Okay, a lot of our middle schoolers, when they're coming from traditional public schools, private schools, whatever setting they're coming to Menlo, they're doing nothing. They're filling in the bubbles because they don't care. They've already done it. Why am I wasting my time doing this? I'm not going to try. I'm done. We see a lot of that. Gifted students are best served when tutoring others. Friendly peer tutors. A positive peer is what I like to hear. My kid's a positive peer. Did you know that? Or when given larger quantities of work at a larger average grade level. We know that gifted kids consistently, when they do this, when they tutor others, they're not learning anything new. They need a high degree of educational challenge. They don't need more of the same. Gifted students are teacher pleasers, are easy to teach, and will make straight A's. I know a lot of these kids. Yeah, there are some. I was one of them. Trust me. I know a lot that are not. In order for these gifted kids to maintain high level of achievement, teachers must make curricular adjustments. This is not a student problem. This is a teacher problem. They need to make those adjustments and not just give more. Gifted kids, they'll do just fine. That one, they're smart. They're going to do just fine on their own. Turns out, no, they really need support. They need challenge, and they need the guidance in order to thrive. Gifted means they're good at everything. Again, no, their strengths can be very uneven. All right, a child may excel in one area but struggle really heavily in another. We're going to talk about how they're growing asynchronously in just a little bit. Gifted kids don't have learning disabilities. We know that that's false. We have twice and thrice exceptional kiddos. Many, again, ADHD, dyslexia, any other learning differences. We know that this a lot of time couples with the identification of gifted. High test scores are the only sign of giftedness. It's sad that we even have to talk about test scores. Honestly, our school, we do standardized testing because we have to, not because we want to. If we didn't have to do it, I wouldn't, because I don't think it's a fair assessment of what our kids are capable of. I already know our kids are really smart. They're going to do well for the most part. A lot of times they do. I wish we didn't have to though, but state says otherwise. Giftedness can appear through creativity, curiosity, problem solving, and leadership. Gifted students are always high achievers. We know that they're going to underachieve a lot of the time. I do see this more often in middle school. Sarah, would you agree with our middle schoolers a lot more? Yeah. They'll underperform, or they'll mask, which means they're going to put on a really good show. They're going to pretend like it's not happening, and they'll mask those abilities due to social or emotional reasons. Gifted children are emotionally mature for their age. Some can be. When I was younger, I started school early, so I started at 4 years old. And one of the biggest pieces of feedback my mom still likes to tell me to this day, which is really fun, all of the parent-teacher conferences she would go to, they would all say, you know, the teachers over here are like chatting and being sarcastic. And she goes, I'll see Jess over there just giggling because she gets it. Not appropriate, but I had a very mature sense of humor. But that was one of the things my mom knew. She was like, that's her. I don't know what to tell you. It's just her. Some can be somewhat emotionally mature, have a mature sense of humor. A lot of times this asynchronous development, it's very common. So you can have a 3-year-old who really likes to obsess with black holes, okay, for instance, but they don't know how to put on their jacket. Like, that's just what it is. That is growing asynchronously, okay? So they can have a very strong, high intellect, but the emotional regulation is still that of a 3-year-old. They'll do the trick where they lay it on the ground and have to flip it and put it on like that, right? Giftedness is easy. It's effortless. Now, we have a building full of kiddos who struggle with perfectionism, anxiety, or high pressure. So that's why, I mean, we really do try to lean into the SEL, social emotional learning, as much as possible, which we have the lovely Sarah Porras, who's our full-time counselor on staff. Some of the books on your table for you to look through, you'll see Dr. Sylvia Rim. She was like a pioneer in gifted education. She still works with our building. She is 90 years old and she is still working. She is fabulous. She is sharp as a tack. And her colleagues, Dr. Christine Brewer, is in our building twice a week. So we're working with psychs on top of school psychs, on top of counselors. We know our gifted kids are coming with a lot. We want to make sure we're able to service that. Gifted programs are elitist. How many of you have heard this? Sorry, I wasn't supposed to go there yet. Yeah. Gifted programs are elitist. We're providing equitable access to appropriate learning opportunities. Like I said, this is an at-risk group of learners. They need something that's different. All gifted children look or act the same. No, it exists across all cultures, backgrounds, and personalities. Here's the list of all of these things to say. And yes, I do have notes with me, so bear with me. So the misunderstandings about giftedness, this is common. We'll hear these things when we have prospective families coming through the building. I'll talk with my family about these things, and they don't get it. So raise your hand if you're like, hey, I talked to my family or close friends, and they don't have kids that are doing things that my kid's doing, and it makes me feel a little like, interesting. Okay. These are common. Our kids are not fitting the typical kid box. They're just not, right? Giftedness is very diverse. They can be strong in one area, struggle in the other. So that's that asynchronous learning, right? So we can be 3 years old and talking about black holes, but I actually don't know how to get pants out of my drawer to put them on my body. Like, these are things that we have heard families talking about. So keeping in mind that giftedness can be invisible. Some kids are, like I said, the masking. They'll try to hide some of their abilities just to fit in. We see that a lot more when kids are getting older. They're really trying to just socially, like, I just want to connect with people and I just want to fit in. So a lot of times they'll mask or hide those strengths, or even challenges. Testing and labels are limited. We'll talk a little bit about what tests do tell us and what they don't tell us. Social expectations, people often expect our kids to be naturally perfect or high achievers, and we know that that's not always the case, right? And then a lack of awareness. Many parents and even educators, and peers too, they'll have a limited understanding of what giftedness even is. And so, like, our job is when people are coming on board is onboarding families about the clarity around being gifted or twice exceptional, right? That's always the first step. And without experience or education on these things, this is just going to keep happening. The problem will just persist. One of the biggest things you can do for your children who may be gifted or twice exceptional, acceleration is huge. Acceleration is huge. We're a gifted school. We're moving, the majority of our kids are either a year to 2 years ahead of their grade level, okay? We're still accelerating kids whole grade or even subject. We had a kindergartner who was taking 3rd grade math. Want to know why? That's where they needed to go. So we sent them there and had a subject acceleration meeting. and they go there every day for math. Okay, we have 5th graders that are taking algebra because that's just where they need to be, right? So we're never ever going to hold, it's a little trickier with your traditional public school, so I will give you that, but there are hoops that you can jump through. Acceleration is huge. Whole grade acceleration or grade skipping means exactly what it is. You're skipping a grade. So a 2nd grade student advances to the 4th grade the following school year. So I have had a kiddo who profoundly gifted. End of 4th grade, I was like, you don't need to sit in 5th grade. You just don't. We had a meeting, 6th grader, they're now graduated, they're a freshman in high school. Acceleration is huge. It's a way to challenge kids, get them on the same grade level or floor, as we say in our building, with their intellectual peers. Subject acceleration is another biggie. You don't need to just grade accelerate them. You can subject accelerate them. So we do a lot of subject acceleration in math, less of reading. I actually don't really know why. I think math is just a little bit easier to identify. Reading sometimes can be a little tricky. But this looks like when a kiddo is advancing to another grade level for a certain subject area. So like I said, our kindergartner who does not need K1 math, they need to go up to 3rd grade math, probably even above at this point, to be quite honest. Early graduation, we're a K-8 school. We don't deal with this a whole lot, but I put it up here because this is a type of acceleration that can occur. When a student meets their requirements for graduation in less than the 4 academic years and graduates high school early in order to pursue post-secondary education. Okay, we do in our building, our 8th graders will leave with at least 3 high school credits, at least. A lot of them will have a lot more. It just depends on their track that they're on, right? Also, for any families in here that have, I guess, middle schoolers, junior high, I don't know what to call it anymore. Mine was junior high. At our school, it's middle. I'm not sure. 7th grade, you can explore the option of College Credit Plus or the CCP program. A lot of people don't, the school districts are supposed to tell you this about once a year. They're supposed to have a meeting about it, and they're supposed to tell you about it. Okay? CCP, College Credit Plus. You can get your 7th grader involved in post-secondary courses while they're in 7th grade. The school has to pay for it. Are we enticing you? The school pays for it. Okay, take advantage of it. I will give you a caveat though. We tell all of our families, also your school has policies on this. I'm sure you can ask them for it if it's not posted on their website. But 7th grade, they can start. They have to be able to independently speak to the professors or speak to the teachers that are teaching the course. Okay, they will not talk to you. They will not. They are very strict on that. So if you have a 7th grader or an 8th grader that's ready for that, I would highly suggest it, especially to get all the nonsense courses out of the way, right, while they're still in, middle school, junior high. So those are the different things of acceleration. Up there where it's orange and underlined, that will take you to the NAGC's website, which is the National Association for Gifted Children. Their website, and it will tell you all about acceleration and how it's a positive step in a gifted or 2E kid's trajectory, okay? So what testing results and labels will not tell you. They're helpful when they provide information, but they don't actually capture the full experience of giftedness, right? So a test that they take or an assessment or whatever the case may be that they're taking, it's not going to tell me how deeply that your kid explores topics or ideas. It will never tell me that. It's also not going to tell me about their creativity and their original thinking, right? Or their emotional sensitivity, that they have very perfectionistic tendencies. An assessment's not going to tell me that. It's also not going to tell me their asynchronous development. It's not going to tell me their learning style and preferences. How do they learn best? Do they learn best when they're on a wobble stool and moving? Do they learn best? Are they a visual learner? Are they an auditory learner? These labels are not going to tell me those things. They're not going to tell me about their perseverance and resilience. They're not going to tell me about their hidden strengths. None of these labels, gifted or 2E, are going to tell me any of those things. Gifted kids often experience emotions more intensely. This whole roller coaster thing of we are up and down on a daily basis. It's quite fun. They process these things differently than their peers. Understanding the emotional landscape can help parents and educators support them a little bit differently. So a lot of gifted and 2E kids are going to have a heightened sensitivity. You may notice subtleties in the environment, others' feelings or social dynamics. We have an open floor plan in our building. Kiddos that are coming from us, if they didn't start with us in kindergarten, it takes a minute to get used to. Teaching at Menlo, it took me about 3 months to get acclimated because I'm like, what are we doing here? And then when I settled in and started learning more about it, I was like, oh, I get it. But it takes kids a minute. Intensity of emotions, they can be both positive, but they can also be negative. Joy, excitement, frustration, disappointment, that can be very overwhelming to a kiddo. especially when they're not old enough to like understand and regulate. Perfectionism and self-criticism, many gifted kids they're setting already very high standards for themselves. We do not need to double down on them and also then set more high standards on them. They're already doing it. Mistakes or failures may lead to frustration, anxiety, or avoidance of these challenges. And then again, their asynchronous development, their intellectual maturity is going to outpace their emotional or social development. We see a lot of that. A lot of that. They can understand very complex ideas, but, struggle with the age-appropriate regulation. So, helping them a little bit at home. Providing them with appropriate learning environments. So thinking about where your kiddos go to school right now. Listen, this is not a plug. Menlo is not for everybody. I'm very clear with people. You can come to our school, you can shadow, you can test it out. It might not be for you. That's okay, right? But encouraging you to find the space that is great for your kid. That's what's important. That's going to service them in the way that they need it. Addressing their social emotional needs. The reason why we have a counselor on our staff full-time, I'm hoping to get you another one. We need it. Working with psychologists, on top of school psychologists, on top of all the other third-party providers that we work with, it is important. Their social and emotional needs need to be met. I encourage you to look outside, talk to your pediatricians, seek outside therapy. All of these things will help with that whole child. We need to help them regulate their own emotions. It's hard. Offer the right mix of challenge and support. Like I said, these kids are already challenging themselves lots of times, and they're already putting stress and pressure on themselves. We don't need to double down, right? We want a decent mix of challenge and support. This is not a one-size-fits-all, and I don't know all of your children, so I don't know what that line would be. But getting to know the kids that are in my building, I'm figuring out what that line is for certain kids. Celebrating strengths while supporting the areas of difficulty. We have to model and practice productive struggle. Things can be really tricky. We have a lot of kids, like I think I heard at the start, where, hey, we realized things were easy, but now that they're hard, it's like, oh, I think I'm done. I think I'm good. I got it, right? We have to model those behaviors for them, and it's okay to struggle. I always had this thing when I was teaching. My name was Wilcox at the time, before I got married. And I would make mistakes, normally, just as a person would, right? But sometimes I would do it on purpose, and I would be like, oh, silly Miss Wilcox. And they knew they could repeat it afterwards, and so then you have the whole class like making fun of you, essentially, which I don't know why I thought it was a good idea. But then when they all repeated it back to me, when they started making mistakes, they'd be like, oh, silly Jonathan. And it's like, you're right. How can we help? Like, what can we do? How do we move forward? Right? Modeling that behavior. Building routines that support autonomy and reduce stress. I'm not saying let your kid make all the choices. That is the opposite of what I'm saying. It's the opposite. But sometimes they need a little bit of autonomy in making choice. A lot of times we push our teachers to, if you have a big project coming up or a book report or whatever the case may be, give them a menu of options on how they can present it. The things that these kids create in our building, I am astounded every single day with the things that they come up with. They're remarkable. So let them have some autonomy. Choose how they want to present. Like, a lot of kids don't want to get up here and public speak. It's not something that they're into. They don't want to. It terrifies them. But what they can do is they'll voice over a super cool presentation, or make a video, or make a website, or make a documentary, and they'll show that to the class, but they don't want to stand up here and talk. Give them some autonomy on choosing how they want to do the things, okay? Enrichment ideas. Figure out, you probably know, because you know them better than the school will know them, whatever they're interested in, latch on. Dig deep there, enrich them in that area that they're super interested in. It will take you farther than you think. Managing screen time and overstimulation. There was a law that was just recently passed in the state of Ohio. They're not allowing phones on schools anymore. Done. No phones. Should have happened probably a lot sooner, but here we are. Manage their time. Listen, I have my phone with me somewhere. Computer, I'm always connected, but I think with younger kids, it is very overstimulating to them to have an iPad right here all day long. So just trying to manage that. We're a school that's one-to-one with technology. We have to even okay, we're going to do a no tech day. No tech at all. Teachers love that. Yikes on bikes. But those are some things you can help support your gifted and 2E kids at home. A few other things. Provide safe spaces to express feelings without judgment. I have a lot of parents. We're servicing about 6 different counties. So we have families coming from all over. And we hear a lot of times and we don't provide transportation either. And with all the districts that are cutting transportation right now, it's been really tricky. So we have families that are driving kids back and forth each way every day. One of their best times is in the car. And that's when they really get it all out. That's when they're talking to their kids about school. How did you feel today? What did you do? That is their safe space to talk about their kids' emotions, is in the car. So you pick what works best for you. Encouraging healthy coping strategies and self-reflection. This is when reaching out to those outside providers, finding people who really truly understand 2E are gifted. They will be lifelines. They will be very helpful to you. Help your students, your kids, set realistic expectations. I believe in the power of yet. I can't do this. Well, we can't do it yet. What can we do to get there? The power of yet is huge. Connect them with peers or mentors who share their interests. They might not be the same age chronologically, right? I mean, obviously monitor it so it's appropriate, right? But make, like, intellectually, they need to connect with peers that are on their same intellectual level. Common pitfalls, and how can we avoid some of these things? Please do not overload them with activities. Okay, we have got a bunch of stressed out little ones in our building that are like, I have school from 8 to 3, and then I go home, and then I have to do karate, and then after karate I have to swim practice, and then after swim practice, it's like, okay, what are we doing? Do not overload them. Their little brains already have so much in there. Don't overload them with activities. Balance it. Little downtime, some unstructured play. They're still kids. We have an Imagineering room where we want them to go in and play, or K1, like, go play for a little bit, go play. Underestimating motivation and interest. Incorporate your kids' interests into learning and projects. This is something you can talk with their teachers about too in your schools. Providing choice and autonomy, again, where possible. Comparing to peers. Please don't do this. Please don't compare them to their siblings. Do not compare them to their friends. Focus on your child's individual growth, their strengths, and their goals. Celebrate progress rather than the competition. I promise you, they're already competing. They're already doing that. So please celebrate their progress and how far that they're coming. Ignoring the social challenges. This is real. If you have middle schoolers, my office is on the 4th floor with middle school, and they terrify me. I love them. They're scary. Support peer relationships and their social skills. Sarah, you probably deal with a lot more there. But they are terrifying when they're that age. It's everything coming together and puberty. No. Connect them with like-minded peers or mentors. Get them into something that they're interested in. Have them make that connection. Assuming that high ability equals ease. It doesn't. We talked about that when we talked about myths and reality. Providing the appropriate challenge is necessary. Recognizing those areas of struggle. Anytime I'm talking with teachers and we're talking about academics and lessons, I'm like, I need you to already know the misconceptions. You already need to be prepared for what these kids are going to ask you, because they're going to ask you some off-the-wall things. These kids will school you left and right, up and down. They know all about all the things all the time. Be prepared for those questions. Be prepared for some of their misconceptions. Overlooking the emotional needs. Like I said, create a safe space for them. Let them talk about their feelings. Encourage coping strategies for perfectionism, for anxiety or intensity. The reason I'm not going into exactly what those things are, this is not a one-size-fits-all. Just because this might help your child, it might not help your child, right? It's not a one-size-fits-all. We can also talk afterwards about your child if you would like to. Sarah, I'm going to open that up to you as well. Sorry. Masking or suppressing struggles. Embrace 2E profiles and provide the accommodations where needed. If you have a gifted kid and you're thinking, they might have ADHD, or they might be on the spectrum, or you know what? They could potentially have dyslexia. If you are referring your child for an evaluation, a special education evaluation, there are timelines it sets the school on. So if you're like, I really think that they need to be evaluated, tell your school that will start their clock. It will start ticking, and they have to jump through the hoops in order to reach out to you. Schedule the meeting. Decide if there needs to be an evaluation. Refer them if you think that they need some other accommodations. Encourage self-advocacy and celebrate uniqueness. One of the biggest things we will tell kids, especially when they're coming, if they come to me, I know all of them. We have 355 kids. I know every single one of them. I pride myself on that. I love when they advocate for themselves. Sometimes it's about the silliest things. But it brings me so much joy when they come to me. They're like, listen, these spotted lanternflies, if anyone's heard about these things, I'm so glad I don't see any more of them, because we have hordes of kids just going outside doing this whole thing. Miss Esway, we need to make flyers, and we need to set them up around the building, and this is why we need to do this, because this is all the things that are wrong with them. Okay, Like, I love that for you. Let's do it. We turned a whole project in because of these bugs that are invasive. That's what our kids did. They were also killing them, but they told us why. So that was a little scary. I'm like, okay, we'll do it. Partnering with the school, maintain open and ongoing communication. I am a teacher first and foremost. I mean, I'm a director of our school now, but I'm a teacher first. I always tell families when they come into my building, I am on Johnny's team, just like you're on Johnny's team. All of these teams, we are all on Johnny's team. We want to do what's best for Johnny. Let's sit as a team and think about ways we can do that, right? We need the teacher on our side. We need the educators on our side so we can make sure we have a well-rounded plan for Johnny moving forward. Understand the gifted planner services. You need to understand if your district, they have to identify, are they offering services to service your gifted or 2E kid? We need to start there. We have to figure out if they're doing those things. And if they are, all of your gifted kids in the state of Ohio need to have something called a WEP, a written education plan. All of them will have it. If you have a gifted kid who's already identified, you've probably already signed one this year that essentially says a goal that they're going to work on throughout the year. Great. Sounds good. Typically, this goal is in the area of their identification. So if they have a math identification, that goal will be in the area of math. If it's a superior cog, it's typically based on student interest. So if you're a superior cog identification and you're really good at science, great, we're going to make a goal for you in science. And how can we further that identification or your interest even further? Nurture their interests at home. I feel like that one's pretty self-explanatory. Let them dive into their interests. A lot of times in our school, if we have kiddos, we do this thing with our curriculum where we flip-flop it because we have kids on the same floor for 2 years. So 1 year we'll do 3rd grade social studies. The next year we'll do 4th grade and we'll keep flipping. So by the time they leave that floor, they would have gotten both. Doesn't really matter what order it goes in. You would have gotten both, right? Let's say we have kids that are coming halfway through the year. They've already done all this. Great. What else can we do? Independent studies are fabulous because it's based off of the student's interest. Talk to your kid's teacher. Hey, they're really hating talking about rocks or whatever it may be right now. Can we do an independent study on XYZ? Here's what I know that they are interested. They'll still hit all your boxes and what you want them to do, but they could base it off of their interest, right? Independent studies are huge. Stay involved in enrichment activities. Keep them engaged in things of their interest. Keep enriching those sparks. We want to stoke that fire. Advocate collaboratively. Working with your school team. Obviously, advocate for your child. That's why you're all here. But working with the school team because they are there to help you. Okay? Encourage independence and growth. We know that these kids and the way that they're growing and the emotional roller coaster they're going to be on. We still want to encourage them to be independent at some point. But we need to give them the tools in order to do so. And then celebrating their strengths, supporting their challenges. Like I said, gifting it's not better. It's just different. Okay, so 10 things to remember when supporting a gifted or 2E child. And we kind of put them in order, and I heard this from a conference that we just went to this last weekend. So I wanted to share with you because I thought this was really fun. Asynchronous development. We know that their intellectual sometimes is not going to meet their emotional. You're going to get that roller coaster. 9, enrichment. 8, you need to find your people. Find your people. If you're sitting here and you're like, I literally have nothing in common with any of my family members, none of their kids have any kids that are gifted, I feel like I'm on an island over here. Find your people. Social media is a beautiful thing. There are so many Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, or X, I don't know. There's so many groups that you can join where people are having a very similar experience to you. I promise you, you are not alone. A lot of families are going through this same exact thing you are, okay? On top of that, help your kids find their people based on interest, not their chronological age. Of course, you want to be mindful of that. Like, don't leave that out completely. Be mindful. But help them find their people based on their interests. Find professionals who understand gifted and twice exceptional. This is huge. A lot of our families will share who their pediatricians are, or the therapists, or their psychs, whoever they're visiting. I don't have a list with me right now. But my email is at the end of this. If you want some recommendations, I would be more than happy to send you some people's names. Okay? Finding professionals who understand this niche area, it's a game changer. It truly is. And there are quite a few people in the Cleveland area that do this. Embrace acceleration. This one's huge. This one is huge. They can test your kid and evaluate your kid for acceleration, they're most likely going to be a good candidate in order to accelerate. Okay, they're going to do something called the Iowa Acceleration Scale on top of another test. I believe it's the Woodcock-Johnson, or is it the Basque? I can't remember. Woodcock-Johnson? I think it's Woodcock-Johnson. Only Sykes can give that. I'm not qualified. So our Sykes will give that in our building. On top of that, they'll do something called the Iowa Acceleration Scale. In our building, because of the pace that we're moving and because of the curriculum that we're using, they have to be a superior candidate in order to be accelerated. But if they're a good candidate in your traditional setting, they most likely will accelerate them. Okay? Embrace acceleration, push for acceleration. Talk to your gifted children about their interests at their current levels of knowledge. Okay? Talk to them. You can talk about black holes with a 3-year-old, but like do it at a level that a 3-year-old can understand. All right? Take care of yourself. This is hard work. I don't have children because I have 355 of them. I'm all set. I don't need any more. You need to take care of yourselves. This is hard work. You are on a roller coaster, and it goes with this. This is like parenting on steroids. It goes back to taking care of yourself. Okay? These two go hand in hand. Like I said, you're gifted in 2E kids. When you've met one, you've met one. They all carry their very different challenges. Okay? Your relationship with your gifted kid, it's absolutely key. You know your kids best. That's why whenever we're having conversations with families, I'm like, Mom, what do you do? What do you do? Because Johnny's flipping out. Johnny's having a really hard time. What works for you at home? My question is always going to come back to you. You know your kid best. Okay? This is absolutely key. I have some questions that were submitted. I'm going to skip this slide for just a hot minute. I'm going to jump to the resources. I put in here a bunch of websites. Obviously, Connecting for Kids, they have so many fantastic resources on their website, so many podcasts. Look at their website. So many things there for you. Dr. Rim, like I said to a lot of you, she is a psychologist. She has been a pioneer in gifted education. In my gifted courses, she wrote textbooks. I mean, she is phenomenal. She still works with our school and works with our kids and our families. She is a gem. What a resource. Anything that she does, writes, she's fabulous. We have a lot of handouts here. The ones in the back you are free to take. Some of these books I'm willing to part with. I just have to remember which ones I have a lot of in the building. OAGC is the Ohio Association for Gifted Children. NAGC is the National Association for Gifted Children. Either one of those websites, a wealth of knowledge, lots there. One of the biggies that I have, I actually stole this Resources for Caregivers of 2E Youth. 2E it's been around for a while. I just feel like it's not been acknowledged much or talked about much for a very long time. I'm going to click on it if that's okay. Okay. This was put together by a woman I listened to at this presentation who was talking about the lack of resources for 2E families. She put together this entire booklet of what it is. There's videos here, and if you click on this tab, there is so much information here for our 2E families. I was like, hey, I have a presentation coming up. Can I share this? She goes, that's literally what it's for. Please take it. Here you go. Use it. Click the resources. It's fabulous. I can get back to where I was. It'd be a miracle. Okay, there we go. Podcasts are your thing. They make me sleepy. I can't do it. I listen to them. I go to sleep. I try. But podcasts are great. Again, Connecting for Kids. Their emotional intensity and gifted children, that one is fabulous. They have several on there. I also love the neurodiversity podcast. It dabbles in lots of different areas. So that one's also fabulous. The other ones on here are fabulous as well. Another one we listened to, Andy McNair, huge advocate in gifted education, twice exceptional. She's fabulous. One of her podcasts is on here too. Here's a bunch of books. Some of them are here, actually. These are also linked. So if you would like to purchase them, you can click on it. It will take you to the website where you can buy them. Okay? A lot of these are on here. A lot of them are Dr. Rim's. Like I said, she's fabulous. We'll plug Family Achievement Centers here. They're great. And then this is us. My email did not save on here, but I will put it on here so that you have it. Yeah, imagine how long it took me to put this together. Let me tell you. Going back to some of these questions. For twice exceptional children, what factors should family consider when deciding between homeschooling and traditional school? It's up to you. It truly, truly, truly depends. I've heard really great things about homeschooling. We actually get a lot of kids that come from being homeschooled. It depends on the family. It depends on what's best for you. It depends on what's good for your kid. Like I said, if you come to Menlo, you are free to try it out. Come check us out, join us for a little bit. If it's not for you, understand. But it really just depends on the kid. Depends on what might be best for them. We can talk, if that was whoever that was, we can talk offline about your kiddo. But it really depends. Are there hybrid models or supports that best allow both their gifts and challenges to be addressed? Is this like hybrid models of schools? I'm assuming that's how I'm reading it. Maybe so. I don't know. Actually, I don't know. If you find out, let me know. I would love to know if there are hybrid models. I would be very curious. But I'm not sure. What are some ways to keep my 2E child interested in attending school and seeing a need? We get a lot of kiddos that come to us. They're like, yeah, I hate school. I'm all done. And I'm like, wow, you haven't found your people yet, have you? Right? We had a kid come to us who decided he hated school. Wasn't going to do it. Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see. And then started playing the periodic table of elements sword fighting. And when the swords hit each other, they would turn into different elements. That's what our kids do during recess. He then found his people. He was very engaged in periodic table of elements sword fighting. You do you. If that's what gets you engaged, I love that for you. It sounds to me they need to find their people. They need to find their thing. What's their thing? What's their interest? How can we build on that? How can we help you build on that? Right? Even if you're not coming to Menlo, this is not listen, we do a lot of really cool things. Like I said, we're not for everyone. But if you're like, hey, my kid's doing this, and this is what they're interested in. What do you recommend? Ask us. We will answer you. Okay? What can support for my 2E son look like in a private school setting? This is interesting. Private schools are great. They can be very great. Depends on what you're looking for, depends on what you need, right? Private schools do not need to take anyone on an IEP. They don't have to. So if your student has an IEP and has certain accommodations, goals that they're working on, private schools do not need to first admit you, and they don't necessarily need to service them. So keep that in mind. There are really great private schools that do. So whoever that was, if you want to know, you can talk offline. Yes, got you. What if your child has tested as gifted, but has been diagnosed with autism and has behavioral issues? That sounds like a lot of kiddos in our building. We can talk about it. Let us know. What are the issues? What are we seeing? What are we dealing with here? If they're having behavioral issues, maybe they're not engaged in something that's of interest to them. Again, maybe they've not found their people or their environment where they feel most successful. It depends. So we can talk about that. Whoever that was offline, we can talk about that. Are there any other questions of anything I did not answer?